We dug deep.
We did.
Into the official statements, you know, analyzed everything going on, the context.
Yeah.
Even looked at some, you know, people on the ground reactions.
Oh, yeah. How are people feeling about this?
What are they saying? What are they thinking?
Okay, so paint me a picture.
All right.
March 13th, 2025.
Big day.
Taiwan's newly elected president, Lai Ching-te.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a move that definitely got our attention.
Yes, it did.
A set of pretty significant countermeasures aimed directly at Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
And the big headline that jumped out at me, at least, was that he labeled mainland China as a hostile overseas force.
Officially, yeah.
I mean, this isn't just some, like, kitschy little soundbite.
Right.
This has some serious policy implications.
Oh, absolutely.
So break it down for me.
All right, so the phrase hostile overseas force isn't exactly brand new.
Right.
It's actually been a part of Taiwan's anti-infiltration law since 2019.
Okay.
But President Lai really using that phrase now and attaching it to these new measures.
Right.
It signals a real shift in Taiwan's approach.
I'm interested to know, what exactly did he announce?
Yeah, what's he actually do?
It's got to be more than just tough talk, right?
Well, yeah, he laid out some concrete actions.
Okay.
First up, and this one really stood out to me.
Okay.
Bringing back military trials.
Oh, wow.
But here's the catch.
Okay.
Specifically for active duty military personnel.
Got it.
Who are caught up in efforts towards unification with mainland China. Or, you know, plain old spying.
Right.
Sounds like they are serious about getting rid of potential insider threats.
Wow, that's a big move.
Yeah, and these trials, they're not for just any offenses.
Right.
They're focused on national security crimes involving China.
Okay.
Like rebellion, espionage, leaking classified information, dereliction of duty, and insubordination.
So, like, if you're serving in the Taiwanese military right now, and you're thinking about sharing some sensitive information with someone across the Taiwan Strait, you might end up facing a military tribunal instead of a civilian court.
Exactly. That's a game changer.
It changes things, for sure. What kind of impact are we talking about here?
I mean, it definitely raises the stakes. And I think the government's reasoning is pretty clear when you look at the intelligence.
Okay.
2024 alone, 64 individuals were accused of spying for China.
Wow.
And 66% of them were either active or retired military personnel.
Seriously.
That's 15 active and 28 retired.
So 2/3.
Right. It's not just a few bad apples here.
No.
This suggests something a lot more systemic.
It's giving deep-rooted.
You know what I mean?
It really paints a picture of the kind of threats Taiwan sees itself as facing.
It's not just saber-rattling across the water.
No.
We're talking about vulnerabilities from within.
Exactly. And our sources highlight specific cases of retired military officers being recruited by Beijing.
Oh, wow.
This is a very deliberate effort
Right.
to cultivate insiders who could compromise Taiwan's security at any moment.
So these military trials are being brought back to deal with this threat.
That seems to be the main argument, yeah.
Okay.
It's all about efficiency and having that specialized knowledge to handle these sensitive cases.
Makes sense. I mean, you want judges who really understand military operations and national security protocols.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so the second big piece of this announcement was tightening regulations on exchanges with China. We don't have all the details yet.
Right. Still kind of vague.
But it definitely seems like they want more control over these interactions.
What kind of impact did this have on, like, everyday life or business dealings?
It's a good question. We'll have to see how it all plays out.
Right.
But the overall goal seems to be limiting China's influence and preventing espionage.
Got it.
So we could see stricter rules around Chinese investments in Taiwan, like in key sectors. Maybe increased scrutiny on tech collaborations.
Yeah.
And possibly even limitations on travel between Taiwan and mainland China.
Interesting.
This isn't totally unprecedented either.
What do you mean?
Well, Taiwan tightened regulations back in 2020 and 2021.
Oh, right.
So this is kind of building on that.
So what's prompting President Lai to take these steps now?
Right. Like, why all of a sudden is this happening?
It's not like you just wake up one morning and decide to label your neighbor a hostile force, right?
Yeah, there has to be some serious reasons behind this.
I'd say so.
So I think one of the biggest factors here is the growing concern over Chinese infiltration.
Okay.
And especially within the military.
Right. We talked about those statistics earlier.
Exactly. And it seems like the government feels that current measures just aren't cutting it.
So they're trying to shore up their defenses
against
a very real threat as they see it.
That's right.
What else is going on here?
Well, there's also a push to strengthen national security and boost military discipline.
Okay.
Bringing back military trials for these specific offenses, it's meant to be a stronger deterrent.
Makes sense. If the consequences are more severe and immediate, it might make people think twice.
Right.
What other factors are we missing?
Well, we also need to consider China's increasing military and political pressure on Taiwan.
Right. It feels like it's been ramping up.
For example, the Joint Sword 2024A military exercises last May.
Oh, yeah. Those were huge.
Yeah, they simulated a full-blown invasion.
Sobering stuff.
Definitely. And tightening the rules on exchanges with China can be seen as another line of defense.
To prevent China from exerting its influence.
Exactly. It's not just about military force. It's about limiting all avenues of potential influence.
So it's not sending a message, too.
Oh, yeah.
We're pushing back.
To Beijing and to the world.
Okay, so beyond security, what about the domestic political scene?
It's the political angle.
Because, every decision has political consequences.
Always.
So how do you see this playing out?
Well, taking a strong stance against Beijing is likely to play well with President Lai's supporters, especially within the Democratic Progressive Party.
Okay.
And I think a lot of Taiwanese people are wary of China's intentions.
I could see
So
that.
this move could be seen as a way to consolidate his political base.
Right. Get everyone on the same page.
Exactly. Show strength and unity.
Okay, so we've got the internal factors covered. But what about the international context?
Oh, that plays a huge role here.
How so?
Well, the U.S. and its allies are taking a much tougher stance on China.
Right. Things have definitely shifted.
And there's increased cooperation between the U.S. and Taiwan. Well, the Taiwan Enhanced Defense Resilience Act, for example.
Okay.
This all gives Taiwan more confidence to assert itself.
They're not alone in this.
Nope, they've got powerful friends backing them up.
So it sounds like a calculated move with a lot of different factors at play.
Definitely a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Okay, so we've talked about what President Lai did and why he might be doing it now.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But let's go back to those military trials for a second.
Okay.
You mentioned they were abolished back in 2013.
Yeah, after the death of Heng Cheng-chi.
Right, that was a huge turning point.
The public was outraged over the lack of fairness in the military justice system.
So why bring them back now? What's changed?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It seems like a risky move.
For sure.
Especially given the sensitivity around this issue.
Right. The government is emphasizing that these trials will be very specific.
Okay.
They're only for active duty military personnel.
Got it.
And only for these national security crimes.
So they're trying to narrow the scope.
Exactly. And they've promised to consult with judicial authorities and legal experts to make sure everything is by the book.
They're trying to avoid the mistakes of the past.
Yeah, they're trying to balance national security with individual rights.
It's a tough balancing act.
Absolutely.
Okay, and what about those tightened exchange rules?
Right. What might those look like in practice?
I mean, we don't have all the details yet, but based on past actions, what can we expect?
Well, I think we can expect more scrutiny on investments from mainland China, especially in strategically important sectors.
Like what?
Well, things like technology infrastructure, anything that could be seen as vital to Taiwan's security.
Makes sense.
We might also see stricter controls on technology transfer.
Okay.
And maybe even more requirements for people from mainland China who want to enter Taiwan.
Right, to prevent espionage or undue influence.
Exactly.
And just to be clear, this isn't the first time Taiwan has called mainland China a hostile overseas force.
You're right. It's not a new designation.
It's in their existing law.
The anti-infiltration law from 2019.
So why reiterate it now?
I think it's all about sending a message.
Okay.
President Lai is underscoring the existing legal reality and justifying these new measures.
Showing that he's serious.
Exactly. Taking a clear and resolute stance.
Okay, so we've talked about the what and the why. Now let's get to the how.
The reactions.
Yeah, how are people responding to all of this?
Well, there's been a mix of reactions.
Yeah.
The opposition parties, the Kuomintang and the Taiwan People's Party, they've expressed some concerns.
Like what?
They're saying there wasn't enough public discussion before these changes were announced.
So a lack of transparency.
Yeah, they're arguing for a more inclusive process.
I mean, these are big policy shifts.
Absolutely, and they could have far-reaching consequences.
Right, for cross-strait relations and for individual freedoms in Taiwan.
Exactly. They're not taking this lightly.
What other concerns have been raised?
Well, the Judicial Reform Foundation is worried about the military trials. They want to make sure there's full transparency.
Right, to prevent human rights violations.
Yeah, they're understandably cautious given Taiwan's history with military justice.
So there's a lot of tension here.
Definitely.
Between national security and democratic values.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance.
It's going to be interesting to see how they navigate that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about the official responses. But what about the people on the ground?
Yeah, how are everyday Taiwanese people reacting to this?
Are they on board with all of this?
Well, based on what we've seen online, it seems like there's a lot of support for these measures.
Seriously?
Yeah, people are excited about this.
Wow. Give me some examples.
Okay, so one comment we saw said, endured for too long, this should have been done earlier.
That's pretty straightforward.
Right. It shows the frustration that some people feel.
Well, they've been waiting for this.
Yeah, exactly.
What else?
Another person said, I really didn't waste my presidential vote. We'll continue to support in the next term.
Wow, full endorsement.
Yeah, it seems like President Lai is scoring some points with his base.
Okay, what other reactions are you seeing?
A lot of people are just saying Taiwan should be tougher.
No ambiguity there?
Nope. They want to see a strong stance against Beijing.
Makes sense.
And then there are comments like, how can this be so satisfying? Really chose the right person.
So satisfying. It's interesting that that's the word they use.
Yeah, it shows a real sense of validation for those who wanted a tougher approach.
Like finally someone is doing something.
Exactly.
Any other comments that stood out to you?
Yeah, this one was pretty intense.
Okay.
It said, finally can let those mad dogs threatening Taiwan shut up. I believe this is just the beginning. Must clear them to zero. Lai Ching-te government. Keep going.
Wow, that's some strong language.
Yeah, mad dogs clear them to zero.
It definitely shows how strongly some people feel about this.
Right, they feel threatened and they want action.
And they see President Lai as the one to deliver that action.
It seems that way.
So overall, are you surprised by this level of support?
I think it's always surprising to see such strong reactions.
Yeah.
But it highlights the deep anxieties that exist in Taiwan.
Right.
People are worried about China's intentions.
And they want to feel safe and protected.
Absolutely.
So let's bring it all together.
Okay.
President Lai has made some big moves. Officially calling mainland China a hostile force.
Right.
Reinstating military trials. And tightening rules on exchanges.
All major policy shifts.
And it seems like he's doing this because of concerns about Chinese infiltration, a need to strengthen national security, and pressure from China's actions.
Not to mention the domestic political climate.
Right. He's got to keep his base happy.
And the international context is a huge factor, too.
Right. The U.S. and its allies are backing Taiwan up.
Exactly.
So it's a complicated situation with a lot of moving parts. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Absolutely.
So here's the big question.
Okay, shoot.
What are the long-term consequences of all of this?
Yeah. What does this mean for the future?
I mean, the relationship between Taiwan and mainland China is already so fragile.
Right. This could really escalate things.
Or maybe it'll lead to some kind of de-escalation.
It's hard to say.
But either way, it's going to have ripple effects throughout the region.
Oh, yeah. This is a global issue now.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Anytime.
It's been a wild ride.
As always.
Until next time, keep those critical thinking caps on.
And stay curious.
We'll be back with more soon.
See you later. Bye.
I just want to give another shout out to Micky from Mickytolife. His channel is a treasure trove of inspiration, and he's a huge Sip&Talk fan.
Absolutely. Make sure to check him out and maybe even share your awesome podcast intro with him once you've created it.